Hi everyone. Today, as promised, we're going to take a look at Luminar AI and how to use it in landscape photography. If you look at Luminar AI, it's really useful for the fact that it's using artificial intelligence or machine learning or whatever type of AI technology that they're using in the background to automate a lot of your common manual image editing tasks that you have to do in post-production. What we're going to do in today's video, though, is we are going to take a look at a couple different photos I've taken, landscape photography, and how I actually went through and post-produced them inside of Luminar AI. So let's get started. And hey, before I forget, if you like this video, please click the like button down below. And if you want to see more, click the subscribe button. All right, let's go take a look at our first photo. Now, this first photo I took was of a tree on a foggy morning. When you first come in, you end up inside of templates, and you can select from a group of templates that Luminar suggests that would work well with this picture. This last one has a sky replacement associated with it. If you come down to the bottom, there's a slider, and you can control the amount of effects that the template's putting into the photograph. So you can drag it to the left and it puts less. Of course, it doesn't do anything with the sky in the background. That's going to stay the same, but the other effects will change. And I can run it all the way up. I can go in and select Edit, which takes me into Luminar, where these edits have been set up in this template. Now, by each section inside of the tools that's associated with a template, you will see a dot. And that means that, in this case, like landscape has been used inside of this template. And I can click this button over here on the top right and turn that effect on and off and see what it's actually doing. Now, if I come back in here to templates, I can come back and I'll go back to the main templates, and it's suggested several other kinds of templates that might work well with this picture. And that's part of the AI that's working to try to save us time inside of our post-production. For this demo, though, I'm not going to use the template. So I come down here and I just click reset, and it will take all of the changes that have been applied by Luminar so far and remove them. And then we come up here to the top and we're going to select Edit, which takes us into the main edit menu for Luminar. Now up here on the top, I can zoom in on the picture up to like 100%. And one of the first things I like to do is I'll come in, I'll look for spots that I have on my sensor. And one of the best tools in Luminar is this erase tool. I really like the erase tool a lot. I can zoom into quite a bit here. I'm looking for these spots on the picture, and I can basically run over with the erase tool. Really similar to what you have in Lightroom, but in this case, this tool works better than the one in Lightroom, in my opinion. And we just click erase, and it's basically going to go back and recreate the texture behind whatever it is we're erasing. And I just come around and I'm looking for these spots, and that's usually what I do on all my photos. You're always going to end up with spots on your image sensor. You always need to check your photo, especially up in the top in the sky, where these things actually end up being the most apparent. Now, also in this picture, I have the bane of all photographers, a power line. It's not so apparent in here because of the fog, but I'm going to go ahead and remove to just show you how I go about doing this. We're going to adjust the brush down as small as we can and actually drag it across this power line. Being careful not to go too far off. So I'm going to jump a little bit ahead, but I'm going to basically drag this all the way across the power line. Now, through the magic of video, I've dragged it across the power line, and I'm going to go ahead and erase it. Now, I'm going to end up with some artifacts left over here once this happens, probably on the left-hand side because of the tree and the haze there. Sure enough, it's drug it out a little bit. I need to go back and actually fix this, so I'm going to end up having to delete the artifacts back out now, but it will end up looking pretty good once we get done here. We might have to go back in and do this a couple times so it normalizes with what's inside the background and not with what's on the tree. And keep in mind, I'm zoomed in to 200% on the photograph right now. Basically, normally somebody is not going to be zoomed in this far looking at the foggy background. So I just need to make this good enough where it actually looks good whenever I zoom back out. So at 100%, I don't want to see anything that's obviously wrong, like what I've got right here. And I've got to also finish out removing the rest of the power line as it went into the tree, the section over here. So I'll go ahead and do that, and I'm just going to jump ahead so you don't have to watch this. So I've got a little bit of artifact left over here on the left-hand side, so we're just going to go ahead and select that with the erase tool. This is to make this look normal. We're going to get rid of this right here. I'm just selecting this whole section here that got drug out, and I'm hitting erase. And that should, there we go. See, that's better. I like that now. So that looks good. So the power line is now gone, and we've corrected all the artifacts the erase tool actually left behind. So now we're going to use the Enhance AI tool as our first tool. Now this is an extremely powerful tool. As we turn this up, we're actually adjusting over a dozen different controls. And this includes the shadows, highlights, contrast, tone, saturation, a whole bunch of different controls in one tool. And then up here on the sky enhancement, it does the same thing, but it just focuses up here on the sky. And if we come up here, we can turn on and off the effect, and we can see that the Enhance AI has done a lot already. And Luminar AI has a split tool where you can come over and you can do a split, and it's also got the button that you can push up here, and when you push it in, this is your original, and then when you let it up, this is where you're at right now. So we can see a huge change just from using the Enhance AI tool. Now what we're going to do next is come in and do composition. Now if we click on Composition AI, the artificial intelligence will come in, and it's using rule of thirds, and it will try to do a crop based on that. And it does a pretty good job. So if you take that, I like that crop. I mean, it's using rule of thirds with the horizon on the third line. And then we shift it over, so it's basically, if we see here, we have the ratio, so it'll stick to the original ratio of the picture. And then we have some other tools that are basically in here for making adjustments, either vertical or horizontal. If we have distortion, we're able to come in here and actually fix distortion if there's any, and there's not really in this picture. I'm just going to showing you what the tools will do, but we have vertical, horizontal aspect ratios that we can adjust if we need to. And if you notice, every time we make an adjustment, if you look up in the top left-hand tool or top left-hand side of the screen, there's the Luminar AI, and it kind of flashes blue. That means Luminar AI is working and that it's still applying the whatever changes that we're making here. So if you're doing something and nothing looks different and that's flashing blue, then that's why. So let's go down now and take a look at the light. And we've got a lot of the normal things you expect to see as far as saturation and tint, your highlights and your shadows. So I'm pretty happy with the temperature of the photograph. I like it kind of where it's at. I don't really need to change the tint. I can adjust small contrast in here. I'm just going to leave that where it's at. You're going to see we're going to do some stuff down below. We've also got our curves and our black and white adjustments down here, so we can use that for contrast. Once again, there's another tool down here below that I'll end up using to do that with. And so now we're going to take a look at Structure AI. This controls sharpness, clarity. If we drag it to the right, it makes the image more sharp. And if we drag it to the left, it softens it. It is human aware, so if there's humans in the picture, it will not apply this to them. And so the amount is adjusting the overall. And then if I come down to boost, it's controlling it's basically applying it even farther to smaller areas of the picture. If you drag this all the way to the right and leave it, you're going to kind of get the old traditional HDR grunge look, if that's what you're after. So in this case, I'm just going to use a brush, and I'm going to select this and put a mask on here. And so I can do a paint mask or an erase where I can either take it off or put it on. I'm putting it on here though, and I'm going to just apply it to the sky. And I'm going to want to soften the sky just a little bit. So I'm going to paint it over the sky with the brush, and we get this little red overlay to show where we're applying. And once we're done, it goes away automatically. And then I'm going to come back down and lower this amount. And as you can see, it's softening the sky, but it's leaving the foreground and the tree alone. And I'm going to bring this somewhere over in here. Now I could increase boost, right? But I'm softening the image. I'm going to bring that down into here. Might make it a little bit softer than what it is here. Now if I come back up, I can turn this off. This is without. And this is when it's on. So you can see exactly what the tool you're working with is actually doing. So let's go down to color. I've got my saturation, my vibrance. Now color cast, if we have, sometimes you're out and you take a picture and it's like the color, the overwhelming color is green or blue or whatever. This kind of removes that. So and you can see with and without, it makes the picture a little warmer if we take some of that blue out of it. So I'm going to take this, slide it back over. I really don't want to warm my picture up. I like that cold blue sky there. I could increase the vibrance, but I really don't need to in this picture. So let's go down and take a look at the details tool. Now you're able to adjust small details, medium details, and large details in the picture. If we move this to the right, it's going to sharpen. If we move it to the left, it's going to soften. So you need to be very careful when you're applying sharpness to these kinds and to your photo. If you apply too much, it's going to start to look grainy. I do like to move these up just a hair. Sometimes I'll move the small one up a little bit farther, and then I'll do the larger one. And then you want to come in and look at it, your image really close. Normally when you're doing these adjustments, you want it at 100% so you can see exactly what you're doing. So this is the overall. I can apply sharpness across the photo. I'm not really going to do that. I have the noise removal tool. Now if you're using just Luminar straight up, noise works great. I really don't have much noise in this picture. I do prefer the noise removal tool in Lightroom over Luminar, but if you're not using Lightroom, then the one in Luminar is more than sufficient. So let's go back out to and then come down here to landscape. And here we have our dehaze tool, which basically takes dehaze out, but I do like it sometimes for the effect on the sky. In this case, I'm just gonna, where am I put that? Maybe right in there. And then we have the golden hour, and what this is doing is it's warming up the picture, applying some softening, kind of giving us that golden hour look. And then the foliage enhancer will enhance foliage inside of the picture. And so if you've got like this really lush green picture and you want to bring the green out. Now, sometimes when you do that, the green hue will shift and it'll become like this unpleasant color. Down in the advanced settings, we can actually change the hue in our vegetation. And so if it shifts to blue like it does sometimes, we can fix that, which is really nice. So here we have the vignette tool. Trees are our main focus in this particular picture. Now I can select that. If I shift it all the way to the right, then I'm able to adjust it to where I want it. In this case, I'm spot on, and I'm just going to shift it to the left because I want a dark vignette around the outside of this to draw the viewer's eye in, but I don't want to make it too obvious, and so I'm able to adjust that and then the size of that vignette right here to kind of draw the viewer's eye into the tree. Now down here in the bottom, this is what you hear a lot of people talking about, and we'll get into this in a couple other pictures too, but we have like the sky enhancement and the atmosphere. I got fog in the picture, and maybe I want to bring this fog out. I mean, I can jack it all the way up, but I just want to decrease it and then bring it down a little bit inside the picture. And so now I've added a little bit more fog, brought it forward just a little bit. And down here I can make some other adjustments to the lightness of the fog. And I can turn it on and off so you can see what I've done with the fog there. Now what I want to do is add some sun onto the left-hand side of this picture where the sun was coming up. And I want to kind of add a little bit more to that. So I click on my sun rays tool. I'm going to place, basically this is where my sun's going to emanate from, and I'm moving it outside the left-hand side frame of the picture. And then I'm going to increase the amount. As you can see, I get sun rays that I brought into the picture. I can increase and decrease the overall look with these sliders, the ray lengths, and how much I want inside of the picture. Whether I want the sun to be really glowing or really small, and I just want enough. I don't want it to overwhelm the picture. I just want it to kind of brighten up this left-hand side and provide a little bit of interest. Move that a little bit farther out. Maybe increase these ray lengths a little bit. What does that look like? I'll show you in another picture, but when you move this around, it's aware of what it's in front of or behind, and so if you put it behind a tree, it acts like it's behind the tree, which is really nice. So we have, this is what we've got, and this is, hold on, let's before and where we're at right now. So we've really brighten up this photograph. And one last thing, I can add clouds, so I don't have to replace the entire sky. I can just add a couple things. So I want to add some birds into this picture. Now I will warn you, it's really easy to get carried away and overbake your pictures inside of Luminar. So we're doing some cool things in here. Most part, I don't add birds into my picture and do all that kind of stuff, even though I will say that if you're doing some landscape photography, your shutter exposure, your shutter speeds are slow enough. If there are birds flying by, you don't capture them, or if you do, they're just a blur. In that case, I might add some pictures or some birds into my photograph if they were actually really there and I just couldn't capture them and they were adding to the picture. So in this case, I'm adding this flock of birds, and I can adjust where they are inside of the picture. I can drag this out, and remember, give it a second so that Luminar can catch up and drag these birds out to where you've told them to go, and then I can adjust the amount. Now the amount slider doesn't adjust the amount of birds. It basically is adjusting how sharp they are in the picture. And then we can adjust how they're impacted on the light, and then several other things so they kind of blend into the picture. And we can just do like all the other tools we have. We can turn them on, we can turn them off, and see what they look like. And if we come back up here to the top, this is where we started. This is where we're at. Now in this next picture, I just took this field full of hay bales. Looked neat, but it was the middle of the day, so the sky is completely lit up, and then it's not, I can use the Enhance AI, but it's not really going to do what I want it to do, so I'm going to replace the sky. So I come down to Sky AI, and I come through and I try to find a sky that I like that's going to work with this picture. And there's a whole bunch you can select. And you can see it pops it up there. And then we have some adjustments down here. So we can basically adjust where the sky is at, and where it's at inside the picture. Move it forward, backwards, up, down. And so you can see I've rose it up too high there. And then we have another tool to actually blend this horizon down here where we can see and we want to bring it in a little closer to the ground, so it's, or in this case it's moving it up, so you're going to want to move it to the left to bring it down and kind of get it to line up with the horizon for us. And we can bring this, so basically we can move these clouds around to kind of find the spot where we want to have it in the picture where it looks good. There's a lot of neat tools that we can actually leverage on this to make sure that the lighting and the sky and the ground all kind of match up here. We just come over and we can adjust this because we don't, it's a bright sky and we took the picture on a cloudy day. Our ground is going to look like the clouds were there, right, when we've replaced it with this nice bright sky. So we need to adjust those things to make the foreground match what we've got in our background inside of the sky. So, and we can slide these sliders up, see what kind of impact we're getting with those whenever we're doing, and so if we need to adjust them. Haze slider if we need to kind of dull our sky down a little bit so we can match the background of the picture. My background's not that far away because we're at the crest of the hill. We can warm the sky up or cool the sky down to kind of match what we've got inside of our foreground. I'm pretty happy maybe just cooling it down just a bit, but not much. And then the brightness we can adjust to match it with what we've got in the ground as well. And you can see it's brightening and darkening the whole picture as well. Now we can come back down here to augmented sky because I'm pulling it around. I want to add a balloon. Let's put a hot air balloon in this picture inside of our augmented sky. So we're going to select this, and it's out here, and so we can move it. We got to come back down here and say place object. Now we can grab a hold of it, we can stretch it out, we can make it bigger, we can make it smaller, whatever we want to do with it. And then we also have some other adjustments over here to basically make it the relighting kind of so it matches with the rest of our picture. And we're just gonna move these around so I'm kind of happy with how it looks, so it blends in. It looks like it was really there. So we come in here, we've got some advanced settings we can apply to our balloon, but I'm not really too worried about that. So I think we're going to come back up to the Enhance AI. And if we apply Enhance AI now, it affects both our sky and the ground below. So we're going to bring this up a little bit. And then we have the sky enhancer, which I don't really think we need for the sky because it's our replacement sky. It's already enhanced. And then we have the composition AI. I can come in here and click on this, and it's brought it up, and that looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that, actually. So that is the sky replacement. So let's go back up to the top, and we will take a look at our before and our after on this one. This is what we started with, and here's where we ended up. So we were able to save kind of a otherwise ho-hum picture, to be quite honest with you. So I wanted to take a look at one last picture. This is a sunset picture that I took out, which is quite dark. And so the first thing we're going to do is go into the Enhance AI, and we're going to bring this up and do our sky enhancement and everything. We're going to crank this up pretty good. And we can see where we started, where we are. Then we're going to go into Composition AI because I'm slightly off, and I want to kind of use this pier that's in front of me as a focal point. And so I'm going to adjust this so that it's kind of lined up in the center. And I want to make sure that it's level. And I think I'm pretty good with that. I might need to move it over just a hair. There we go. So I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm just going to come back up here, close the tool, and it's going to apply the crop. Now I could come down here into light, and I'm probably going to adjust the highlights and the shadows just a little bit. I'm going to actually bring out the brightness using another tool here. But so I could crank this way up, and I would bring out some more detail in the shadows. If I was I'm looking at the histogram at the top, I'm definitely clipping on the left in the shadows. So, but that's okay for right now. Now we're going to come down into the structure AI. And so I could crank this way up and I'm getting more detail out. But if you notice up on the top, it's monkeying with the sky in a way I really don't like it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a brush and just apply these sharpening effects down here on the bottom of the photograph. So I'm going to paint this in. I'm going to use a pretty large brush, and I've got a lot of softening around the side there, so it's going to blend in really well. And I'm just going to apply this down here in the bottom. Now I'm going to come back down and I'm going to turn this on and off, and you can see it's like it's bringing just the bottom out now and not monkeying around with the top too much or at all. Not much messing with the background at all. Now I'm going to come down and add some more detail with the small, medium, and large details, with small being slightly higher and then working down into the large. And so I'm just trying to bring out some more detail on those trees. I don't really want to lighten them up too much, and you'll see why here once we get to where we're adding more sun rays in. We can come into the landscape and add the golden hour, but I could add a little bit of this, but it's not really what I'm after here. And I'll show you. I kind of like coming up and using the HSL tool for the colors. So I could use the vibrance and bring that up, and we also have saturation, but it's really not doing exactly what I want with the sky. I'm going to leave the saturation up just a little bit, come down here into the HSL, shift my oranges a little bit more orange, and if I got yellowy greens, I want them a little bit more orange. My blues, I want bluer. Okay, I think that's kind of where I want. Now I'm going to go up and change the basically the saturation of these colors, these sunset colors, to bring this sunset out a little bit more. But I don't really want to increase the overall saturation of the entire picture, just the colors that I'm interested in. As you can see, I've got kind of a nice orangey glow now in the sky. Now we are going to come down into the sky, the sun rays tool, and I've got the suns just set over here on the back, or on the right hand side of the picture, and I'm going to just add some sun rays to this picture. And I'm going to adjust so if I bring this up, right, it starts poking through the bottom. I really don't want to do that, even though I want to enhance that. So I'm probably going to end up having to mask this out, but let's move it. Can I figure out where I want it at? And I will leave a ray down here on the bottom so I can show you. You're basically going to use an erase mask to eliminate that, because I just want the rays on the top. The sun is behind the horizon now, and I don't want any rays popping through the bottom. I just want them out through the top. So I'm just going to kind of adjust this to where I think I want it. Once again, I don't want it to overwhelm the picture. I just want to have the suggestion of the sun back there in the background. Let's keep making these. Adjustments till we get them to kind of where we want them. Now, so if you can see here, so I'm increasing, I can increase really all aspects of the sun with this slider. So I could have the sun up in the sky, which is definitely not what I want to do in this picture, but I'm just kind of showing you here. I can shift things around. I can make the the actual globe of the sun larger, but let's put it back down below the horizon where I need it. And then I'm just going to adjust these rays because, like I said, I just want to have a little bit of hint of sunshine in the background here. And so I can adjust the rays and, like I said, all aspects of the sun till I kind of get it to the way that I actually want it. Okay, so now we're going to come up here. So I've got a ray that's dropping down off the bottom, and I just come in here with the erase tool, and so where it's red, it's going to apply. Where it's not red, it's not going to apply, and I just erase that ray right out. And so I've got the little bit of sun rays coming up over the horizon there now, kind of what exactly I was after. So, and we have our slider down here for the amount. Don't want to have a whole lot of that, but we have the before and the after. So we've kind of changed the picture, brought out the sunset a little bit more, added the sun rays in the background. Now we're going to put in some birds. And so I'm going to use this one that just has a few birds in it, and we're going to apply this over here, I think on the top left-hand side. So we're going to click Place Object. Now we can drag this thing around and rechange its size, so we're able to control where they're at. Remember to give it a second so it catches up with you. And now we have our before and our after we're done. We got our birds or sun rays in the sky. So anyway, that's Luminar AI with our sky enhancements and all the accoutrements that come along with it, and it works great. So once again, I appreciate you watching my video. If you would, please click the like button down below and subscribe. That would help me out a lot. And I appreciate you watching, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks. Take care.